Hey everyone, this is Maddix and welcome. I've been receiving questions about my production techniques for a long time now. And I think finally the time has come to show you guys a little bit how I work. For the first episode, I'm gonna do a walkthrough of my track called Acid Soul, which has been released on Revealed. Over here, you can see a Behringer TD-3, which is an Acid 303 clone. The Acid synth is coming from the Behringer. And actually it goes through a distortion guitar panel, which I will link down below as well. So let's do a quick playthrough of the track and let's get started. So whenever I start a new track, most of the time, I start with a kick drum, as to me, it's one of the most important things in a dance track. So this one is the kick over here, and it's a heavy techno influenced kick. I've actually tried multiple kicks. As you can see here, this is another kick that I tried, and I actually removed one before I remember that. And it's always good to change up kick drums, etc., to get the perfect one. And sometimes you think it's the perfect one, and then a few days later, you change it again and it's a better one. So keep on finding the perfect sounds. So this techno kick drum, it's a really good sample. Most of the time on my kick drums, I use a fat filter simplen to filter out in the intro, the outro, maybe build-ups. Now the reason I use simplen specifically is because the filter goes all the way down to 4.8 Hertz, which is really extremely low. And this makes it possible to not cut out a lot of the higher frequencies. Now, each filter works in a way that if I select 4.8 Hertz over here to filter the low end, actually at 10 Hertz it's also filtering something, and at 20 Hertz it's also filtering something, because it's not as steep. Now, most filters only go to like 10 or 20 Hertz, and the simplen goes way lower. So that's one of the reasons I'm using it. Also, the high end goes to 75. So on top of that, I'm adding Pro Q, which basically I'm boosting a little bit of the low end to give it a little bit more impacts in the club systems. And now techno kicks often have a really heavy mid-range, low mid, like it's really loud. And sometimes it works, sometimes it's too much. And right here, it was a little bit too much, so 180 Hertz is cut it out. Now, on top of that, I've added an attack sample that's just basically a really small click. Nothing on there, but definitely helps to give the kick a bit more presence with the click. Now, up to the next part. I think it's cool to start with the acid synth. So, as I told you, I've received the TD-3 from Behringer, and the sound is also programmed on the Behringer. It then goes through my MXR Distortion Plus pedal, which I also bought for this track. And basically, that's the basis of the sound. Now, I've been working hours on this because it's my first real acid synth, and it takes quite a bit of knowledge to process it correctly. So I'm going to show you right now. So obviously it's an audio file as it's programmed in here and then recorded through the distortion pedal. And the cool thing about recording is that you actually start changing like the cutoff frequency, the resonance on the machine itself. And then I remember I did a few takes. I also have here, it's an older take. And you start doing a few takes and then import the best parts into your track. You can actually just jam to it, which is really nice. Now, processing is done on a bus, and the reason for that is that we have Acid Lead 2 as well, which changes it up in the second part. And the second drop. Now, processing on this one, let me play it without anything. So it's still really cool, and this is basically the sound from the Behringer through the MXR, that's it. And then I've been adding these instruments one by one. Now let me explain you. First of all, EQ is really important. High end of the Behringer can be quite harsh, so that's why I'm cutting it off a little bit, and especially the low end as well. As you can see, there's a lot of rumble and noises if you use analog gear, and it's not needed. So we're cutting that off. One of my favorite distortion plugins right now is Thermal by Output. They have some great presets that you can use. I've used this one, and the cool thing is that it sometimes gets it breathing. Oh, here we go. They've put all the modulation in here. So, wait, let me enable them one by one for you guys so you can hear it more clearly. Only the EQ, now the thermal. Gets a bit more bite. Stage 1, a really cool stereo imaging technique. And it has mono spread as the Behringer is mono. You want a bit more width. Widens it up. Echo Boy, one of my favorite delays. So many settings and possible ways to do it. I'm using Space Echo for this one, which is really cool. And it's a ping pong one, so you get the stereo information in there. Next up, Vintage Verb number 1. If you listen closely, this is a short ambience kind of, well, the preset's called ambience, but it's an ambience kind of sound. The next one, same dark plate, and actually with the delays and reverbs, I've been struggling a lot. Next up is LFO tool. This is basically my sidechain. I use it always. This track, I wanted to keep the depth at 40, so it's only ducking like 40% of the volume. I used to do it in my big room tracks like 100% full, but that just doesn't work for these kind of tracks. Now, one of my favorite plugins ever, Go Falls. This is an automatic EQ. And what happens is it just analyzes the audio real time and either boosts or tames it. And it's real time, so it's really cool. Now, a filter, which is automated, I guess. Yep, here we go. Soothe, another favorite. Cut out some annoying frequencies, basically also automatic, but you can all set it up clear. Another filter, I think this one is to filter out the low end in the build-ups. Another Pro Q, which is just slight changes and the mid-low range, cutting a little bit off and boosting the highs a little bit. Another delay, but this delay is automated, as you can see here. So only in the build-ups it comes up to create a bit more space. And a final reverb. So that's basically it for the acid sounds. If we play together, let's play. So let's go back to the drums, because the acid synth, that's what I explained, and it keeps on going. Or maybe we do some small fills in here, so we have got the drop covered. So basically, there's not so much happening. I've added this rave synth. Amazing. I love this one. So I'm still using Camel Crusher sometimes if I need a sound in your face. Using this EQ, I don't know why, because this is a rave generator and it's basically being sampled sounds, I think. And it was lacking some mid-range in this track. Now I'm using Valhalla delay as a reverb. They have actually quite a cool reverb presets in there. This one is called Clarity Duct Infinite Reverb. And as you can hear, it's a really long one because this is a sound I'm using occasionally and I want to like, and keep it going. There's a filter. I don't know why. Possibly it's automated. Yep, but I removed it, I guess. Oh no, here. It's filtered. And there's a sidechain after the reverb, so that the reverb gets sidechained as well in the trap. Next up, we've got a small. This is a typical techno energy building kind of sound. It's from Yuhi Repro. Really cool synth if you're looking for the old school stuff. And here we go. And that's basically it for the drum synth. As I told you, it's really simple. Well, there's one more important part here. There's reversed reverbs for these synths. So I think everyone knows this trick right now. So that's the drop part, guys. That was fast. So let's go to the drums. I've categorized them by percussion, snares, and hi-hat. So let's start off with the percussions. These are random sounds, right? Yeah, actually, it sounds like it, but they're all placed on the key parts that in the complete track, in the mix, it just works. And it repeats itself, kinda. Processing on these sounds are quite easy, like this. This is a penner, so I'm penning the first hit right, the second hit left. There's an EQ on there, an OTT, and it's really basic, this one. And I'm filtering it even more to place it correctly in the mix, because this is a sound you want to have in there, but not like really pay attention to. One of my favorite reverbs though is Reverb. This has some great presets, and actually, I don't know, for these electronic music, this one works great. I'm not using it that much on vocals whatsoever, but. So the other sounds, as you can see here, there's not even a single processor. Here we have a Pro Q Vintage Verb and a Simplon, also really simple. And as you can see, I'm basically just filtering the sounds to fit in the mix or to give like slight variations. Let's go to the snares. Now, this is the build-up snare. Not so much happening as well. So a filter, a Pro Q, and a slight reverb. And that's it. Nothing else is needed for this snare. We've got a small fill, different snare, OTT, and a vintage verb. Well, this is snares already. Let's check. We've got hi-hats. This may be more interesting. So hi-hats basically in these type of tracks, they make all the groove, right? So I'm always looking for the right hi-hat, and it takes some time. So we've got the first one, which is an offbeat hi-hat. This is a closed one, really small, short sample. On top of that, we've got the 16. Now, as you can hear, if you listen closely, this is going 16 notes and it's panning from left to right. I'm using Penman for that by Sound Toys. And it just improves the stereo perception of your track because the sound is not needed in your face whatsoever and it's easy to spread out. We've got, let's see, this one. This is an offbeat hi-hat as well. So on this one, it's a little bit more EQ. Most hi-hats, some hi-hats, they have low-end information that's of no need whatsoever, so I always cut that out. This trick is interesting because this is Isotope's neutron transient shaper, which is a multiple transient shaper. And basically what I'm doing is the high end I'm pushing the attack a little bit, so it gets more clicky and more attack to accentuate the offbeat that the hi-hat is playing. And then I'm using a delay on 1/16. So if we play this, you can actually hear slightly, just slightly. That's hat number 1. Hat number 2, same rhythm as you can see. Just different sounding hats. There's only a small EQ. And I think the most important volume with these type of sounds is to get the volume right. So there's multiple hi-hats on top of each other. You need to balance them carefully and then balance the total package in the mix. So we've got a hat mix. So all the hi-hats, they go into this hat bus. On this bus, there's a decapitator from Sound Toys. Great small like saturation distortion. So I'm only using the drive slightly to give it a little bit more analog feel. Little plate Sound Toys as well. Small, roomy reverb. Great one to check it out. Now on my hi-hats, I'm using Soothe a lot because a lot of hi-hats have a really harsh information in them. So Soothe automatically ducks it out when it's playing, and it just, all these frequencies add up. So if you remove them from the source, you can add the sounds and it won't sound that harsh. Final EQ. And as you can see, I'm actually cutting away even more low end now. It's always good to check, because when your full mix is playing with the hi-hats and then you start filtering, you can go up until the point that you will start hearing it and then go back slightly. And that's exactly where you want to be with your filtering. And it's simpler again to automate it, I think, in the intro. Here it's filtered. And here it comes up. So that's the hats. Oh no, we forgot the ride. And these two. First the ride. Really simple. Only the high end, because all the other hi-hats are playing as well. And what I like to do is add some good loops. So you've got your own rhythm with the loops playing, and it all blends better together. Let me play just a loop. Really simple. And another loop. So this loop, I've used another stereo technique called the Haas effect. Basically, you delay either one of the sides of the speakers. So I'm delaying the left channel right now with 12 milliseconds. And this gives an impression it's really wide. And the reason I'm using different techniques is that if you start, each technique has its own advantages, disadvantages, and some techniques have artifacts that you can start hearing. And especially if you use the same technique on 20 sounds and then you add it all together, at least I do start hearing artifacts, which I don't like. So that's why I'm using different stereo tools for different reasons. And this way try to eliminate them. Right, so basically, another loop. You see how many hi-hats are on top of each other, right? It's crazy. Let's get into the breakdown. Well, the breakdown is not really there. I wanted to get the track that keeps on driving and building. So let's take a quick listen. This is the part it's silenced.
In my body, in my mind, in my soul. In my body, in my mind, in my soul.
So basically that's the only thing. The vocal, we'll discuss it later. We've got this epic rave stab sample that keeps on playing. It goes from a drop fill to a main element in the breakdown and then to a drop fill again. And I'm adding a Reese bass. So this Rebase is an init preset from Serum, but it's using the basic MIDI waveforms, and the basic MIDI waveforms are cool because here you go. It sounds a bit more analog, you know, and I think that's important to not be super digital. Basically, you turn up the unison and the detune, and you can use the filter, and you've got yourself a Rebase. So what's on here is a compressor. Now the reason for that is I want to compress everything and push everything up, so the differences in the frequencies level get a bit more the same. I've got a sidechain, an EQ to cut off the real low end, an imager, and as you can see this time it's Isotopes imager. Now the low end, if you make a Rebase like this with the detune, it will get messy and it will constantly cut itself out and not whatsoever. So the reason I'm using this ozone is you can set the bands and just make it mono under 105 Hertz. And then this mid-range area was really wide as well. And I always try to keep the correlation between 0 and +1. And finally a filter. And that's it.
In my body, in my mind, my soul.
So let's go into the vocal. This is a secret Maddix technique. So I'm using some text-to-speak engine. Let me play you this sample.
In my body, in my mind, in my soul.
So this has been run through Melodyne to tune it. And as you can see, I've coded it, so the rhythm is a bit, is okay. And then for the vocal now, this processing
In my body, in my mind, my soul.
is quite important. First of all, again, same trick, cut off the low ends, duck a little bit in the mid-range area. I'm using a compressor,
In my body,
an LA2A. Any LA2A is nice for vocals, I think, because it's a bit slower. It's really easy to use, no real settings, and it just gets the vocal in front. Now, one of the really cool tool, which I use a lot for my vocals, is called Pitch Monster.
in my body, in my mind, in my body,
And basically you can put like time spread or unison on the vocal. And it also has a granular mode, vocal mode, so you should check it out. After that, another EQ to place it properly in the mix.
in my body, in my mind,
And as you can see, there's a huge peak here in the low end that was getting annoying. I think especially because of the other processing, especially the thermal here. So that's why I'm cutting it a little bit. Now thermal again.
in my body, in my mind, in my body, in my mind.
And again, the cool thing is the presets they have. You can get an immense amount of inspiration from these presets. And just skip through, change the dry, wet mode whatsoever. And then if you're finished or if you like it, but you need some changes, you can go here and change everything you want. Again, simple to filter it, soothe
In my body,
to cut away annoying frequencies, and delay,
in my body, in my mind,
another delay,
in my body, in my mind, my soul.
and a final finishing touch, Pro Q. Again, filtering.
In my body, in my mind,
Now that's basically it. Over here I'm looping it. This is rendered out, so I've rendered it, so it's a bit more controlled. Over here. Basically the same start of the processing, but this effect that you're hearing is coming from Portal, which is a granular processing plugin from the same company that did Thermal. Really nice, same story, really nice effects and granular stuff to play around with. And this has been looped. So basically what I did is I put it in a sampler, like a small pod, and then you start playing around. And there you go. So let's get into the last part, which are the effects. Over here in pink. And basically you can see I've done a lot of experimenting, which all has been disabled afterwards. But I think the main thing that I use a lot is some crowd effects, which are playing in the background of the drop. And basically I'm filtering it really heavily. I'm using a sidechain on it and I'm making them super wide. And that's truly like the only thing I do with them. We've got a few risers here. And it's a hit. There's a clap. And an exhaust. It's nothing that special. Over here. So we're building up. There's a riser in here. This one from the sample pack that I did. And the only thing I'm basically doing is filtering the volume and using the pitch bend automation. There's some ambient noise that I'm using, and probably just gets louder and louder all the time. More rises, and this one. It's the alarmy kind of sound. Wait, let me play it. It's the alarm. And over here we've got some impacts. So the alarm actually. Again, I'm using a Valhalla delay with huge delays. And even some diffusion. So part of the delay, like 24% of the delay gets reverb, sidechain, and EQ. So actually that's really easy. I think the reason that the drop keeps on building is that you've got this synth which is non-stop changing with the cutoff. You've got all the percussion that keeps on adding and adding. And then over here, for example, you can see the detune. This detuned sound coming up, then that's gonna pitch up and down, and that's basically how you keep on building with the track. So guys, that's it. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something. And if you have any questions about this project, be sure to drop them in the comments. If you've enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. And see you in the next one. Ciao.